Welcome back to our town centre garden. Each day I awake and wonder who I might see in the garden this morning. I think about absent friends and wonder how they are doing. I haven't heard the song thrush in a few weeks. I haven't seen Master Cheath for a while either. He may have regrown his neck feathers, so I might not recognise him now. Maybe I'll see him today. Seagulls freak everybody out. Luckily, they don't hang around for very long. I am enjoying documenting the changes going on with the young starlings. The little starling on the wall is undecided. It doesn't know whether it wants to eat from the bowl or join its family on the floor. The spy camera is set up under the feeding station. It captures some nice close-ups. I like to see the starling superhero moves. They land so perfectly and eat so efficiently. The evolution of this creature has produced a perfect design. The dunnock sings sweetly in the tree. While the young starling drinks, Mrs. Blackbird is hard at work collecting breakfast. She will take her mouthful to her baby, Gemma. We get a nice close-up of this young starling. It's thinking about teleporting up onto the bowl. At this age it is very difficult to identify the females from the males. Both sexes bicker in the same way, so we cannot use that behaviour to identify them. I bet this bird is relieved to have some peace. It has some pretty blonde highlights around the wingtips. There are some lovely white polka dots developing on this bird's chest. I was reading information about starlings for this episode, and I learned that the brightness of the polka dots in adults can mean something. When an adult female is ready to breed, her polka dots will be brighter and whiter than unready females and males. I will point out some of this stuff in the future. They enjoy foraging for dropped seeds from the feeding station. They are responsible for most of the ones we see down there. If there wasn't amazing cleaning services like this happening in nature, we would be up to our eyeballs in waste. Mrs. Blackbird is amongst the birds on the ground. She doesn't care much for the starlings. When the juveniles land, it's like they teleported there. They often land very close to Mrs. Blackbird. Starlings have longer legs than blackbirds. They scuttle about swiftly and bounce off things with them. They are very springy. I noticed that their feet are much stronger and able to grip the slippery metal of the feeding station. We see many other birds sliding down it, but like many of the little birds we observe, starlings can cling to things at awkward angles despite their greater size. I can't imagine a wood pigeon doing that. Before the starlings became scarce in the wilds of Britain, they would be in charge of pest control, eating many invertebrates that would commonly devour fruit crops. Since the introduction of pesticides, their food source was almost eradicated. Pesticides on crops are a threat to starlings and other birds in two ways. The poisoned insects get eaten by the starlings, their chicks and other birds, which is obviously harmful to them. The poisoned crops are eaten, which directly harms the starlings, their chicks and other birds. When I was a child, there were many cherry tree orchards around our area. We could hear the crop gun go off to scare away the birds. This is another way to remove their food supply. Humans turned all of their natural habitats into crop fields, then banned them from it. From the early 1980s, farmers began a much more rapid demise of wild Britain by adding poisons in great abundance to their other bad practices. This sealed the fate of countless species. But to be truthful, we started destroying England before that. The idiot rich of the Victorian age brought countless non-indigenous species to Britain, causing another chain of destruction. But that's another story. Back to my garden. The tilted double-glazed window makes focusing hard. If I close it, they will flee. Sorry for the blur, it will clean up soon. It is nice to see the iridescent feathers developing on this one's back. As food rains down from above, the birds on the ground continue their rapid gathering. Mrs. Blackbird is still doing her chores. As the starlings mature, we can begin looking out for changes in their beak colour. The adults have bright yellow beaks sometimes. I imagine we will see patchy black and yellow colours emerging. The seagulls are making everyone nervous. They all stop what they're doing to listen, including me. I don't live near an ocean. These seagulls live at the park, on the buildings, and in the local fields. The birds on the ground are a little less fearful as they are mostly in cover down there. Other birds are watching the starlings, wondering whether to try and snatch a seed from under them. The juveniles hang out in the tree. It's full of yummy invertebrates. I haven't seen one eating the berries. Are they too big for them? This starling is stretching to look over the fence. Identifying the sex of starlings is tricky until the breeding season arrives in the summer. These birds go through changes all year round depending on their status. If they are ready to breed, their beaks will turn yellow. The females will have brighter and whiter polka dots on her chest. This dark bird has recently become an adult. Its black feathers are a little incomplete. The head still has specks of the juvenile brown colour. This young adult isn't pushy like others we have seen, and the younger birds easily dominate the water bowl. That looks like great fun. The little bird has covered everyone in drips of water. I like how starlings shake off the drips from beak to tail. The seagulls call out for one another. I have no idea what their calls mean. This is a great angle to see the iridescence. Just look at those metallic colours. We can see the amazing strength in their grip. Those feet are incredibly strong. This dove is regrowing some tail feathers. The new ones are still short. Strange nearby sounds are making this little starling cautious. The bath is proving very popular on this humid day. The deeper bowl seems to be more attractive to the birds than the new shallow bowl that I got recently. The birds are really loving their baths. I was mesmerised by that scene. This starling is soaked. I track a starling on the ground. It helps us feel the speed of its movements in a different way. This dove has an uncomfortably displaced tail feather. Below the feeder, a lone dunnock has a look around. By the look of other feathers in the tail, it seems like the dove has been in some kind of struggle. It looks very untidy in that area. The young dunnock is to the right of this shot. I saw the dove try to pluck the displaced tail feather. I think it is uncomfortable for it. This starling also has a displaced feather. It can happen when they mooch through the bushes, as well as if they get into a fight. That feather doesn't look as painful as the poor dove's tail up top. The dove is very jumpy, but is still quite determined to feed. It tries again to peck away the dodgy tail feather. I feel sorry for it. Back to the water bowls. Another starling is having a bath. It is becoming easier to tell the tension level of the birds now. The garden is empty, and with no noisy neighbours to make it jump, this starling can take a long bath. Even with the dove's arrival, the starling continues its wash. There is a pile of starlings on the feeding station. They are incredibly fast in their movements. It's hard to keep your eyes on one of them. Their squabbles are good practice for the more serious fights that they will have during breeding season. When starlings fight for territory and breeding rights, blood will be shed. Males will fight males, and females will fight females. A gruesome technique that they commonly use is grabbing their opponent's head in their talons to pierce the brain through their eye socket. Wow, that is gory. When creatures can produce a lot of offspring, nature always finds a way to reduce their numbers. Usually a predator will be all that is needed to prevent too many successful babies. Starlings are preyed upon by many different carnivores, including aerial predators such as hawks, falcons, and more. Nature also decided that their numbers would be reduced a bit more if the sexes would fight to the death. Even when talons and beaks replace claws and teeth, the fight for survival remains the same. Seeing as these birds operate at hyperspeed, I decided to slow this scene down. Wow, that was disconcerting. It's a relief to go back to normal speed. When you live life in the fast lane, there is a lot more at stake. They have to squeeze a lifetime into only a handful of years. No wonder they fight so hard all the time. I like the sideways walking of the starling on the wall. Ollie the wood pigeon is in the lower bowl. We know what he's like. He starts trying to get the other birds to leave. He appears rather aghast at the audacity of the young upstarts. He bluff charges the feeder to try and frighten off the starling. Forget that, just land there. At the end of the day, magpies arrive in their old tree. With the sun in my eyes, I attempt to record their antics. As always, the babies chirp and wiggle to get their parents' attention. When they go quiet, I wonder if they will all roost in there tonight. The starlings really kept me on my feet today. I feel a lot more connected with them since making this series. I have sympathy for their species trying to exist in the wilds of Britain and failing because of human interference. I know that these resilient birds have set up homes in towns and cities, as well as spreading to many other parts of the world, so I don't fear that these birds might go extinct. I just hope that England will have some true wilderness areas once again, so the natural creatures of this land may return. Until next time, goodbye.